Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is going to be our newest meta update with 7.33c and everything you guys may be missing because I was gone paneling for the Berlin Major. So I am back. I apologize for the absence, for the break from my videos. So before we get started on 7.33c, I think it's important to catch you guys up on everything you may have missed. So real quick, in front of me, I have the Berlin Major heroes with the most picks, and then we're going to quickly mention their win percentages. So when we look at the most picks, we see a lot of CM, Coddle, Disruptor, Rubik, Enchantress, Sky supports. And then when we're looking at offlaners, we see Underlord, Doom, Beast. When we look at mid laners, we see Storm, Void Spirit, Ember Spirit, Pango, so a lot of mobility there. When we look at the carries, we see Alchemist. The only reason we don't see Medusa is because she was banned every single game. And then we see Terrorblade because it's good against Alchemist. Then when we look at the respective win percentages of most of these top tier heroes, Alchemist still 65% win rate despite 63 picks. Same with Pangolier. Terrorblade 60% in 40 games. Underlord 74 games, 60%. Keeper of the Light 81 games, 60%. Bear in mind that all of these heroes I've already mentioned, except for maybe Pango, are getting first round drafted. So we've got an idea of what the meta is, right? Spirits in the mid lane, a lot of sustained supports with the CM, the Coddle. You even see Pugna here with 32 games and a 56% win rate. We even started seeing Io towards the end of the tournament. So what are we seeing, right? So what defined 7.33b in the meta of the Major is offlaners who bought a Vanguard. It's pretty lame, not gonna lie to you. But what happened was they made Vanguard cheaper, and because you can get Vanguard on heroes like Doom, Underlord at like minute 4, they're just unkillable. So what does that mean? We have 3-man gank squads between the two sustained supports, feeding all their resources to their mid laner, who's this mobile spirit guy, and they're running around the map killing everybody. And then the carry, the best carries of the patch had been Medusa and Alchemist, were just super tanky, durable, hard to gank flash farmers. There's your entire meta, folks. So with that in mind, let's see what we got out of 7.33c to address this. So, general changes. So, one problem we had in 7.33b was that supports would sometimes be level 5 at like minute 14. It was happening like way more often ever since they removed the tome. And also, it feels like it's more difficult for supports to find a lane to farm right now because there's just so many kills to be had. So, what would happen is the team that's winning and getting kills, the supports are super farmed and super fat, while the supports on the losing team are, feasting off of breadcrumbs, and they're level 4 at minute 12. So what they did was they made it so that the Wisdom Rune now gives it to the lowest level hero on the team as well as whoever picked it up. And then Observer Wards give more experience. And then when a stack is killed, the person who stacked it gets 30% of the experience. So we're seeing a lot more options for supports to get levels, even if they're not able to take over a lane, but also not revolving around kills. So this really addresses the team that was behind, that the supports are not living on poverty mode. And that maybe you have a better chance of coming back, because we did see a lot of games tend to snowball just because early objectives, but it was a lot because the supports on the losing team had absolutely no ammo to be firing. The next biggest thing I see is that Universal Heroes, their damage per attribute went from 0.6 to 0.7. That means that an Iron Branch is now 2.1 damage on every Universal Hero in the game. So what that means is any stat items they buy, starting items, or if they go like Atos type items in the mid game, they're getting a ton of damage. They're getting an extra 16% damage from every single item. So I'm definitely going to be trying to experiment with various Universal Heroes. If you forgot what those are, just take a quick gander. These are the Universal Heroes. I'm blocking half of them. There you go. These are the Universal Heroes. So when it comes to stats, like stat-based Universal Heroes, the ones that come to mind are ones like potentially Marcy, Mirana, Windranger, Venge. What stands out about these heroes is that they're right clickers. So building stats and getting damage definitely benefits these heroes more than others. Void Spirit as well, right? So those are the heroes that I would think would benefit the most from this, and I'm certainly going to be trying carry Venge for myself, or at least core Venge, maybe offlane. Now that they, we're not going to spoil, but the fact that you can build stats on this hero and she likes to go Ags, maybe she's going to start hitting like a truck. You never know. When we look at the items, the big problem we had with items in 7.33 A and B was that all the auras were super broken. I don't know if you guys watched the major, but every team just had 5 auras, and whatever offlaner got 2 auras faster won the game. As much as I really do like this patch, I actually think the new map, all the new things they've changed is super exciting. But man, dude, just watching people be unkillable as they ball up as 5 with auras, it's boring as fuck. So, thankfully, they did address some of it, but I will say it doesn't really feel like they crushed it, you know? They didn't destroy the auras. They didn't plummet them into the ground. Boots of Bearing up by 200, Crimson Guard up by 125, while also getting a mana cost, which is pretty relevant because it's usually strength heroes buying it because it scales with your strength. We're seeing non-aura items that were never bought, like Eternal Shroud getting buffed. Pipe got a slight nerf to it. We got Vanguard, which was the most broken item in the patch. Still a reminder that it is disassemblable. So a lot of heroes that were being picked would be going Octarine Core Rush, but they would start the game by their first 1800 gold being a Vanguard, because you can disassemble the Vanguard because both the Ring of Health and the Vid Booster are part of an Octarine Core, right? So that's something that was very popular. So I feel like they nerfed all the shit that was really strong and kind of made the game boring, but none of it feels like it got demolished, right? So I think we're still going to be seeing bits and pieces of these items in the former meta, but it's definitely going to be better. So, neutral item changes. We got a lot of buffs to the irrelevant ones. I think Duelist Gloves are really good now on any attack speed based hero that's a lane dominator. I'm thinking like Slardar as like the #1 Legion Commander, Faceless Void perhaps. Heroes that don't mind battling because they don't have flash farming jungle potential. And now they're getting an extra 5 attack speed, which is a minute 7's a lot. Spark of Courage, a big buff. I mean, I'm just looking at all these items. All the ones that were overly used, like Vambrace and Spell Prism, got nerfed, but all the other ones are buffs. And I'm excited to keep trying out these neutral items because they're doing a good job of balancing the ones that are absolutely poop. And now they're nerfing the ones that were picked every single time. So, let's talk about the 5 biggest nerfs of the patch. There's a ton of heroes that got changed, by the way, guys. You know, we can scroll down throughout this entire thing. But 5 biggest nerfs of the patch. Alchemist got hit pretty hard. Another 5 movement speed. Cooldown on Unstable Concoction by 2 seconds, which is definitely relevant. You spam that ability. His Grievel's Greed went from 3 to 2, so it now takes 8 CS instead of 5 to get to the max amount of gold. Chemical Rage is worse early on. They definitely took a big chunk out of Alchemist. Keeper of the Light, I also think got hit pretty damn hard by this C patch. Maybe you guys don't see this hero too much in your pubs, but the fact that he was picked so much was because level 1 Blinding Light was so strong. So they basically neutered this spell at level 1. It went down 15% damage, lower radius, lower cast range, longer cooldown. So now his laning stage is a lot worse. I think he'll still see play in competitive, but definitely not a first overall pick ban. The next nerf coming out is the Medusa nerf. So what they did to Medusa was they made Mystic Snake a much worse level 1, 2, and 3. Then Mana Shield, if you see the bonus mana went from 200 to 0 at level 1. And then at max level, the mana per damage went from 4 to 3.6. So she's definitely still going to be tanky. She's going to effectively have about 10% less EHP from her mana. But her level 1, she went down 200 mana. And her Mystic Snake became longer cooldown. So, everything we're looking at here, she's back to what I think a standard carry should be. Very weak in lane, and then very strong later, but not so strong that we see her every single game. The next hero that I think got hit pretty hard by nerfs is actually Void Spirit. So what they did to him was that his level 1 spell for Ether Remnant is down by 10 damage, which definitely matters for the laning stage. And then his base damage is down by 5. So that's pretty significant. He does get base damage from stats, so it should effectively be about like 3, maybe 4 damage less. But a lot of what makes Void Spirit good or bad in a meta is how reliable his laning phase is and getting off the ground running, because this hero does not come back. This hero has to have a good start. He's either like snowballing, taking over the entire game, or feels incredibly lackluster. So hitting his early levels this hard feels pretty bad. And I would say the 5th biggest nerf after seeing all the heroes would probably be Ricky. Ricky was already not seeing play in competitive. I think he's still very strong in pubs. People are still going to pick him in your bracket because at the end of the day, invincibility equals invisibility, right? Maybe it's the other way around. But they made it so his shard is no longer quite a deso. It's only 5 armor. His own armor went down by 1. And then his blink restore time went from 10 to 13. So much longer time on his ability to move around in fights. And at the end of the day, he's already not good in competitive. So I'd say he's like dead in competitive, as he was only getting picked in very situational spots where he just fit the draft perfectly. Next up is going to be our 5 biggest buffs of 7.33C, according to me. So number 1 buff is actually Invoker. And the reason why I say number 1 is because I know virtually nothing about this hero when it comes to playing him. But one thing I know is about short things. Wait, what are we talking about? Either way, distance on Tornado level 1 went from 800 to 1500. That alone, ignoring all these other damage buffs, tells me that this hero's like early to mid game. He can actually like put 1 point in Wex and just like be active or like have impact on Quas Exhort. So I think we're going to see that Midas Quas Exhort. I think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see a little bit more Invoker with that value point in Wex. So he's a big buff for me. I think that hero is in the gutter, and they also nerfed Pipe. So maybe if you're picking Invoker, you're no longer smoking a pipe because you're high. Get it? Sorry. Sadly, the next biggest buff that I see is freaking Death Prophet. This hero's been irrelevant for an entire 3 weeks. Time to make her broken again. Valve, Ice Frog, whatever. So right here we have Death Prophet, who's level 4 Crypt Swarm, which is her farming spell. Now one-shots creep waves for a much longer time with 15 extra damage. Her silence got more radius. And now her exorcism, which is the entire hero's kit, is 5 seconds longer. So just in case you guys were wondering if Death Prophet was going to be irrelevant for more than a month, I think we're going to see even more Death Prophet, especially now that the Vanguard item got nerfed. So we're not just going to be defaulting to melee offlaners building auras. We're going to potentially see auras from ranged offlaners, and Death Prophet's creme de la creme when it comes to that. So for number 3, I actually think it's going to be Razor. What I like so much about Razor is that they buffed his level 1 Storm Surge back to a really solid value point. It felt like at level 4 that's what you wanted to take, but they made it so bad that you didn't want to take it. And so we're seeing a much more carry buff for Razor because you can take that value point in Storm Surge, extra armor in lane, extra agility. So I'm really going to be leaning towards Razor because they nerfed his static link level 1, but they buffed it later on, and Razors tend to want to max out their Q and farm anyways as a carry. So I think it's going to be seeing carry Razor, maybe even offlane Razor, but I'm definitely leaning towards much more carry Razor, and I'm going to be trying it out myself. Number 4 is a whole slew of buffs coming in for Spirit Breaker as strength gain, mana cost, status resistance, decreased cooldown, more damage, decreased cooldown, literally every spell. And I think this hero was only getting outshined because of the other heroes that were meta in the core roles really wanting to just be spoon-fed resources, and also just the ranged heroes were too strong in regards to the Twin Gates and all that stuff. So I think Spirit Breaker, with his global presence on this huge map, is going to be a menace. It might even be like a core. This might be good enough to make Spirit Breaker core again. I'm just not exactly sure where he's going to get put. But I think Spirit Breaker was kind of on the cusp of being really strong. He was just outshone by the other heroes that got nerfed. Dude, what is Timbersaw's damage level 1 now? Wow. So another hero that I want to be trying in my 5th slot for the most buff is Timbersaw, who with 4 branches of Quelling and some Tangos, like a very standard mid or offlane build, rushing into bigger items like Ring of Regen, we are at 62 damage plus a Quelling Blade. This hero used to hit for a measly 50, and his weakness was that he either had to secure CS with his abilities, or he had to go a lot of stat items that were expensive and couldn't rush the bigger items in lanes. So I believe Timbersaw, mid or off, maybe even carry in the right matchups where you have like an SF mid or something, is going to be taking off because of his laning stage. What they did do is give him an extra 3 damage on top of the fact that universal heroes already get more damage now from all stats. So lastly, 3 heroes that I'm going to be trying. Lastly, we're going to be trying Vengeful Spirit, a universal hero who loves buying stats, and also got 3 damage level 1. We're going to be trying Vengeful Spirit with the Ags into other stat items, potentially like Manta, right? Next up, we're going to be trying, spoiler alert, this one was in the Educational Smurf series coming out, is DK Carry. Already getting ran by Tundra a ton throughout the last 8 months. May not be the most exciting hero, but damn. Giving a hero like this base attack time buff and base movement speed buff, he was already on the cusp of being a really strong carry. And now I think that he should just have everything he used to have, and he's going to carry much harder. He's actually going to have the attack speed built into his kit, similar to Nature's Prophet, where they just kept buffing his numbers. They've been doing the same thing with DK. This hero has 58 base damage when he used to have like 49, and now he's got high movement speed when he used to be like 290. We're talking like a year ago, right? This is just power creep that has been unchecked, and I can't believe they gave him this big of a buff. Number 3 is Zeus. We're going to give him another chance, potentially as a carry, potentially as a mid, with like Phylactery into late game Manta. I'm thinking as a mid, right? I might even think as a mid that this hero can go like 5th item Manta Shard, right? Where you build normal Zeus for the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the game, and then you end up building into the split pushing high damage output hero with right clicks, right? They made it so they buffed his mana cost on Arc Lightning, and then his level 1 ulti now does 350. So heroes at that stage in the game do not have that much HP. So I will be trying Zeus, probably starting in the mid lane, but I'll also potentially be trying him carry in certain matchups. Thank you so much for watching, guys. That is my meta update for 7.33C. I will see you guys next week for regular updates on Mondays. See you guys. Like, comment, subscribe.